What's going on, y'all? David Wilson here, filmmaker here in California, and here on this channel we talk about film and fashion. But today I got a cinematography breakdown from a recent shoot that I just wrapped up, and let's get right into it. All right, guys, so jumping right in, so we have image 1, 2, 3, and image 4. All right, so I'm probably not going to do a deep dive in terms of the lighting for each shot. We'll probably do that in another video, a follow-up video to this one, so make sure to look out for that. So I want to just jump in here. So this video is just going to talk about the layering and why layering is important. So when I say layering, I'm talking about having foreground, subject, and then background. Make all of those things work together to create a pretty cool image. All right, so we look at this one. This one is probably the least interesting out of all of the shots that I'm probably going to talk about. All right, so we have layer 1 and layer 2, and I shouldn't say that. I would say this one has the least layers. So we only have layer 1 and layer 2. Layer 1 is obviously our subject. Layer 2, our background. So prior to anything happening in this office space, all of this was set design. So I had to bring in, say, you see this couch over here? I had to shift this couch a little bit over here. I had to redirect a lot of the stuff to make sure that the frame actually looked decent or nice. Based on this company's mission, all right? They help young men of color get to and through college, which is somewhat, I would say associated with American Dream, which hence the posters. And she's a woman, right? Woman empowerment. On the posters, you can't really say it says we the people, but I wanted to include something to make up for this bland gray wall that we would have just had without this couch. It would have been her, obviously symmetrical to the frame, but adding these posters here, right? This plant, adding in this couch, right? These posters, and then it just made everything fit and work together. And that's what you really want to do when you layer your shot. So layering your images and lighting, when you think about certain things, you want to look at it as layers. And for this particular shot to be interesting, I went ahead and layered it the best way that I could. So hopefully that makes sense. So jumping over to our next shot, give me one moment. All right, so jumping over to our next shot, this one has more layers than the previous one. So it's the same shot. So in the video, which should be up on my YouTube or Instagram page by now, we have layer 1, right? Layer 2, and then layer 3. All right, and why is that? So I'm gonna break this down, showing you why those layers work. So we have, all right, this is something called our foreground. Okay, so we have layer 1. We have something in the foreground that's out of focus, and then we have layer 2, which is our subject. Our subject is looking this direction, all right, following the leading lines here. And then we have layer 3, once again, our background. Now this is important, right? Because all of these 3 layers are working together to create this image. Now, I got this idea from a previous shot that we're gonna talk about here in a second, but bringing this table, so that obviously we have a low angle shot looking up at our subject. Our subject is looking this direction. Now bringing this table forward towards the camera puts us in like a 3D kind of like space, in my opinion. It brings and adds an extra layer, no pun intended, into the shot. And so it just makes it a lot more interesting. So you want to try to look for ways to either hide behind something, or whether we add maybe a plant, but the audience is almost like peeking into the image in a way. Whether or not if you got that from watching the video, maybe not, I'm not sure, but that was the idea. But it definitely does create a little bit more interest and draw your eye to the subject a lot more. It frames her up. And then layer 2, obviously we have our subject. As I said, subject is looking towards me off screen. And then also we have layer 3, our background. Now our background, I chose this particular angle because the background, I knew that in post I would probably really use these lights, or just not in post, but just in terms of lighting, motivation. We'll talk about motivation and why that's important in terms of lighting in a second, but these lights are motivating the audience to think that a lot of this light, this natural light that's coming from this hallway, is giving her this light here, as you can see on the side of her face. And some of that is the case, but we'll talk a little bit about the lighting. But really what I want us to focus on is layer 1, as I said before, the foreground, layer 2, the subject, all right, what's in focus, and then layer 3. Almost drew a 4 there. All right, so moving on to our next shot. Let me exit out of this one. Let's see. All right, same concept. So this is where I got the idea for the the previous shot we just looked at. Okay, so we have layer 1. Okay, again, this table is just adding more interest. Like I think without this table, it just wouldn't be that interesting. It just adds another element of it just does something for the shot versus that table not being there, and then us just looking at, say, the subject, which is fine. Then we have layer 2, all right, my boy, and then boop, off screen, he's looking that direction, and then we have layer 3, all right, our background. Once again, if you've noticed in the previous shot as well, all right, I'm gonna exit out of this just for a second. All right, if we look back here, I shot into the L of the room, right? So if I'm not gonna pull out my pen yet, but this here, right, shot into the corner of the room, right? Because that corner is always gonna give me leading lines, okay? Going back here, give me 1 second. Okay, yeah, so we have, let's just say that's a terrible line, but these are given, this is our lines, guys, right? This is layer 3, layer 2, and layer 1, all right? All of these layers, once again, are working together to make this shot be a lot more interesting than it probably would, all right? And then obviously we got our salty, whatever, I don't know what that is, but it's over there. All right, so let's exit out of this one and look at our last one as well. Yep, let's end that. So moving over to our last one, once again, not very interesting in terms of, all right, it's a very basic frontal shot. So let's go here, draw. Okay, so if we break this down, so we have our shadows, okay? This is, all right, we have our leading lines going either direction, okay? We have our shadows, all right? And this is how I'm creating layers. This door was actually open and I closed it so that way we can have dark, light, okay? And let's change colors really fast. I'm actually change to this. And then again, all right, there's a window over in this office space that I opened up the blinds on, and it let in some light. That breaks up and makes the shot a lot more interesting, dynamic, a lot more depth to the shot as well. Same thing here, okay? I opened up the windows there, so that way we can get more light coming in. And so it just adds more interest. So we have lights, darks, darks. Yeah, without that, this would have been a very flat background and it just wouldn't have looked as good. And then obviously you see our subject with the catch light. He's looking at me this direction, off screen. Really it's like this direction, but anyways, you guys get the point. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about lighting in our next in my next video. I think that I just want to talk about layers and why that's important to layer your images. But that's pretty much it, guys. So if you like this content, please like, subscribe, comment below. Let me know what you thought. I want to know if this is helping, if this did help anybody, if you learned anything. And as always, my name is David Wilson, and start your day with giving, because way too many people take. SWNUP.
I used to watch the families on TV, praying to God that could be me.